Hello, in this video we will have a look into job templates again, and here into the next use case. It's a use case 2 that you know, and here in that use case 2 we are scheduling both machines and employees explicitly and together in combination, so that you need to have a machine and an operator to operate that machine simultaneously at the same time. So therefore I'm switching to the data of that use case. So here you can see the source and the employees that we created. You know that from a previous video. So in that use case, the machines are inserted with a 24/7 work calendar, and the employees inserted with the contractual working hours. So then what we did is that we filled in the matrix. So I don't want to focus on that any longer or anymore. So now let's create templates for that use cases. So therefore I'm creating the template again here in that Excel sheet. So just let's go for template 1. So I name it unique. So it is up to you how you would name your template. Of course, always choose a name that identifies the recurring routing best. So let's assume we have got a task number 10. So then you can give a task name to that. So whatever, step 1. And now it comes to assigning resource groups to the task. And as we want to simultaneously or plan the resource together, and we have here the use case that you always need an operator and the machine, it is a bit different in comparison to the use case before. So, and here I want to separate between two use cases again. So case A means that you must have a machine and an operator to operate the full process. So that means the operator, is operating the machine during the whole process time. So, and to do this, you assign a resource group for the needed machines. So let's assume we have got like station 1 needed. And again, here it's always very important that you one-to-one use the same spelling of the needed resource group. And now let's assume we need the operator during the whole time, and therefore now we have got this column J and K, these column I and J with the resource group 2 that you assign to the task also. So here it is not just one resource group assigned, here it's a second. And this second resource now has to include the skill to operate a machine of that group. And this was our setup. So here we have got a group that is containing every member of your team that has a skill to operate this machine group. And therefore we also assign this skill to that task line. So, and now it remains the same. So now we just insert for the definition of the length of the operation just the production time per unit. Let's go for 50 here as an example. Okay, so then what I did not explain in the video before is that we also have an additional text in here. So what you can insert also here on that template level or on that line for the template is any additional information that you want to insert to better describe what is done in here. So that's totally optional. Of course, that has no impact on scheduling, but it might be helpful as this information can be retrieved at many places within Just Planet, and so that might be helpful for the users. So this is just, any text can be inserted in here as an option. Okay, so that was actually use case 1. Use case 1 was that you need to have one resource of that group and one resource of the other group, of the skill group, to operate the task. And this is needed for the whole time. But now let's have a look in the second use case. And the second use case is including the case that the operator or person just need to set up the whole process, and afterwards the machine can run independently. So let's see how we do that. So we create a new template. Of course, we name it different. So we have got again a task identifier. So let's call it step 1. But then setup. So this is then one task line that is only foreseen for the setup. So then, of course, choose the machine that is needed. So now let's go for the next group what we have. So let's say this should be done by one machine of station 2. So, and then of course, what we also need to do is to have a person that has a skill to do this setup. So, and then we make use of this additional column here, which is including the setup time. And this is now very important. So the production time is per unit. So this is always referring per unit. But if you activate the module for detailed task time, then you additionally get the setup time, the teardown time, and the transfer time. So what do these times include? So the setup time, the teardown time, and the transfer time are absolute. They do not refer to any quantity. So it's always absolute. So setup time, of course, is a time that you need to set up the machine before the original process of manufacturing can then start. This is the same with tear down. Afterwards, you might need to tear down. And finally, the transfer time, also absolute. So the transfer time, in comparison to these 3 times here, the transfer time does not occupy any resource. So if you have a setup time, a production time, and teardown time, these times will occupy the resources accordingly. So they need resource capacity. The transfer time does not. So the transfer time is not blocking any resources. So what could that be? So a typical use case for transfer time is if you have got like a coloring operation within your process. And normally it's pretty common that after you color your products, the color needs to dry. So this drying process is not occupying any resource, but it needs to be considered in scheduling, because like the time to dry, of course, increases the total throughput time and needs to be taken into consideration. And this can be done via the transfer time. Okay? So now let's step back. The template number 2 is the use case B, which foresees that during the setup, you need the combination of resource and person, and after the setup, the operation for the machine can operate the process independently and the operator is not needed within the whole process. So therefore, we make use of the setup time in here and insert the absolute duration of that setup process. Let's assume that's 10 minutes. Then what we do is we just define a second task. So the task then is step 1, you can call it process, for example. And here the same machine is needed, but no person anymore. And very important, of course, this process follows the setup. Therefore, refer to the predecessor's task number accordingly. So, and what we do here then is we insert the production time per unit. So let's assume this is 55 and this is then the use case that you just need the combination during the setup. So this is now very essentially to understand. So if you are scheduling explicitly employees and machines in that way that you in some cases need both at the same time, so that you need an operator to operate your machine, then assign both groups that are needed, so the machine group and the group of skill to operate it. If you have the use case that this combination is just needed in the beginning setup phase, then insert that setup as an own task line, which is followed then by the process, and the process is just needs the machine only. Okay? So, and this then of course can be uploaded into JustPlanet, as you know that, and doing or having this logic in mind, you then of course also need to define all recurring routings that you are facing in your shop and that you need to have to create your initial workload. Okay, so this was the use case 2, how to set up your templates in the case that you also have, as we call that, combo tasks that need machines and employees both. I thank you for watching and I see you in the next video.